Hello and good morning to those who are on the west side of Central African time, and good afternoon to those who are on the east side of the continent. Welcome to this Jamlab Meetup, the final of a 4-part Jam Cafe monthly event series brought to you by the Civic Tech Innovation Network and Jamlab. My name is Deepa Chabalala and I head up the Jamlab program here at Wits Journalism. Joining me today is Deepa Iyer from Luminate, who is the impact investor there. We've got Mashegoane, who is the founder at Civic Capital in South Africa. We've got Iyanu Fatoba, communications associate at BudgIT Foundation in Nigeria. And we've got Roland Perold, who is the co-founder and COO at Volume. Before I jump into today's topic of discussion, I just want to do a bit of housekeeping. If you can, please do share and tweet today's conversation on social media using the hashtag Jamlab Meetup and the hashtag Civic Tech. I really want this to be a discussion and would like you to please use the Q&A function for any questions directed to our speakers at the bottom of your screen. And for all the comments and the queries, please leave those in the chat function, which will appear on the right-hand side of your screen, I think. Just so you're aware, this Jamlab Meetup is being recorded and will be publicly available on all various digital platforms in different formats. So do share the conversations after this to your networks as well. So for today's conversation, I'd like for us to discuss and learn more on funding strategies for civic tech and media innovation, and how organizations seeking grant funding or support from contemporary funders in general can better position and prepare themselves. Today, I want to center our conversations around 4 areas of interesting models and approaches for how innovators can fund and sustain their ideas or platforms. These 4 areas we'll delve deeper into in this hour will be philanthropy, corporates, government, and also hear from entrepreneurs in the civic tech and media space who've successfully funded and monetized their ideas and platforms. So Deepa, I want to come to you first. Tell us a bit more about yourself, what you do, and what an impact investor is.
Thank you so much. I work at Luminate. We were formerly known as a Media Network and are part of the Media Group. Luminate is a global philanthropic organization that manages the capital of Pierre Omidyar, one of the founders of eBay. We invest globally in several different markets, in Africa, largely in South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, and are basically investing using a range of investment instruments, equity, debt, grant, recoverable grant, investing in funds to build an ecosystem around specific issue areas. For us, there are 4 issue areas. Civic empowerment is one of them. Data and digital rights is another one. Independent media is a third, and financial transparency is a 4th. And what an impact investor is, to me, is really, someone who is focused on an ecosystem as an investor, thinking about returns, not just in terms of financial returns, but also in terms of the impact that it has on society at large, and also thinking of that impact in terms of what's most relevant for operators running the businesses and nonprofit organizations that we often engage with. But yeah, I'll stop there, and I'm excited to hear from everyone else in the panel. Oh, you're on mute, I think.
Yeah, I'm muted. Famous line for this time. Paul, I want to come to you next. Tell us a bit about what you do at Civic Capital.
Yeah, simple. Thank you. Firstly, to have considered myself to be one of the guests here, panelists. So firstly, from Civic Capital, we are a private equity firm that is made out of a number of seasoned business leaders in our country. So you have a lot of high-profile business leaders who form part of that organization. And mainly we look to invest in high-growth sectors, the likes of artificial intelligence, healthcare, education, and the list goes on. And so, however, even our portfolio expands beyond that, particularly my personal one, because I'm also the head of Ultimate Holdings, which does capital raising on behalf of a number of clients. And we have companies, those who look to raise money. So when it comes to capital raising, we understand the landscape properly on how companies can raise money. And I must say that part of this emulates from my own story. Back in 2015, I created a company called Artificial Intelligence Group, and it was a challenge for me to raise $2.5 million to buy an artificial intelligence software. And thereafter, it was totally evident that people are facing the very same challenge that I'm facing. And when we created or started working on Ultimate Holdings, it was very beneficial to really sit on the other side of viewing applications and helping companies to raise money. So one is very passionate about that. And we really are well clued up about what it takes to get the money. So for now, I'll just pin it there.
Awesome. Deepa, I want to come back to you. In your line of work, what interesting models or approaches have you seen for how innovators can fund and sustain their ideas and platforms?
I think generally, especially for early stage businesses or nonprofits, I feel like sort of founding teams that are really building themselves for the long term are thinking about a few different things. One is really, ideating on a core vision early. I feel like there are a lot of funders in different ecosystems that have different strategic agendas, and so often you see startups that are thinking about that funding ecosystem instead of thinking about who their stakeholders are, what their product market fit is, and like really iterating on that early on. And so really sort of honing in on product market fit early and kind of thinking about who your communities are and who your stakeholders are, and really focusing on those groups. And hopefully, I think a lot of teams are also sort of thinking about that early runway in terms of where their capital is coming from. And hopefully it's coming from, a funder that's either able to provide money unrestricted, if it's grant capital, or it's coming, from sort of communities that are, and by communities, I mean stakeholders that are crowdfunded or, family and friends that are kind of able to give a little bit of runway to really experiment and ideate to get to a product that is kind of something that, is post-pilot and pre-scale. And so overall, I think the most innovative ideas that I've seen are ones that sort of stick to a vision early, find that vision, stick to it early. And it's one that, is proximate to sort of the market in terms of who the consumer is and who they're building for, without really getting too influenced by disparate funders, disparate strategies in some sense.
And there's an interesting point that you say there, that it's key that you don't get distracted by different funders and different opportunities. How do you remain focused as an organization on your goal?
I think that's a better question perhaps for Roland, or someone who has experienced that directly, in sort of the current moment. So Roland, I would love to defer that question to you.
Roland?
Seppo, just sorry, it lagged on my side for a second. Just repeat the question. I just heard my name and I was awake.
So Deepa mentioned that the most successful organizations are the one who stick to a vision early on. and that the key thing is to not be distracted by the different funders and different opportunities that you might come across. And the question is, how do you remain focused? And how have you at Volume remained focused on your target and on your vision?
Yeah, geez, that's a great question. I think focusing on your core early users or clients, I think is where you'll find the answers. You know, we early on, even through pivoting through different ideas, we were very focused on our users early on when we were still building, you know, a software platform for community radio stations to help them with producing better local news. And I think those are the days that we started with you at Jamlab almost 4 years ago. And today we're running a podcast production company, producing podcasts for impact-driven organizations like Human Rights Watch, Doctors Without Borders, Access Now, and the like. And I think for us, as a podcast production company, our clients are our core stakeholders or core stakeholder, and focusing on that, getting that first client, really figuring out what is the value that we can create that they are willing to pay for, I think was the right thing for us to do. And it's a signal that you're chasing sustainability as a social enterprise, as opposed to just trying to tailor your story to whatever grant maker is looking for a certain vertical of company.
Also, Paul, sorry, Roland, I'm going to come back to you on that, but but before we get into the nitty-gritty of Volume and your success story, I want to come to Paul, who can speak to both corporate and government. And if you could share a little bit about the unique ways of raising funds when traditional avenues have failed.
Yeah, so I must also include a part of traditional ways, but maybe just to also mention that normally when it comes to funding, if you're not approaching the institutions and companies out there, you start with the 3 Fs. And the 3 Fs being family, friends, and fools, those who are willing to bet on you. And family is a given. If you have someone who's willing to put their neck on the line for you, whether to get a loan for you or they already have the money themselves and stuff like that, friends as well. They can come in that fashion, and fools, I won't speak to that. So, but then you have other unique ways. The thing is when you really want to raise money, you have to really say, what is a road less traveled? And approaches that a lot of companies don't usually look into. And some of those ways, it will be to say, can I partner with a company that is well established within the field in which I'm in? Because many a times that when you raise money is issues of credibility, or the funders not believing that you can retain their money. But if you have a big brother in the industry that you say you attach yourself next to, you talk to them and say, this is who we are, this is what we're trying to do, and we have done proof of concept and stuff like that, and they buy into your vision. Then you say, we would also like to raise money, and they can then say, okay, you can put us as a reference. You can put us up as a company that supports you. So in that way, it gives confidence to the financier that if we give you money, there's what we call branding by association. If we give you money, you certainly will bring it back because you have this credible player next to you. That's one. And the second way that is unconventional is whereby you get a mentor that is, well-to-do financially. And those mentors, particularly because they will be seeing you rise through your journey. And if you are impressive enough, they will even offer to fund you before you even ask. But if it comes to a point whereby you want them to fund you, you can then just ask them and say, hey, I'm working on this and so forth, and you've been seeing my progress and stuff like that. Now I want to go to the next level. Can you fund me? Those are easier to sell because they believe in you, you know, you've been following their advice and stuff like that. So that's the second one. And the third one, it would be to look at enterprise development departments within banks. So banks like ABSA and other bank, and as well as FNB, they have enterprise development divisions. And those enterprise development divisions, they don't look at funding applications like the bank itself look at them. They are a little bit lenient to companies. You know, they are relaxed with their criteria and they understand they have to give you a bit of an assist. So I would say look into that because they certainly are very, very much helpful. Because if you just look at the bank, you'll be discouraged even before going in. But go into the bank and say, what is your enterprise development division and who heads it? And most likely, or the best way is to always approach the head. If you don't know who's the head, I mean, all of that information can be found on Google. And yeah, for now, and fourthly, I will also say, group yourself with other peers in the industry. You know, the same companies that you have in the industry, group yourself and approach any financier. And people and companies, they tend to listen to a collective than individuals. Hence, we have bargaining bodies, you have the unions and so forth, because companies, they listen to people more when they are a collective. So if you go to any company that finances and you say, we are a group of companies which do the same thing, or we might not be doing the same thing, but we're entrepreneurs from different sectors and we're looking for funding and this is how it's divided and be detailed and be professional, they will mostly likely listen to you and try to assist. And maybe in closing, Tsepo, on this point is that, you know, when you want something from someone, ask them how to get it from them. Than to just look at the criteria online. Get them to take you through. It's like trying to win a cooking show or an Idols. If you had access to one of the judges, you ask them and say, what are the things that when you are there, you look at to really get people on the other side? And people most likely, they will help you because it will be a trial and error, but they will say, go and fix this. Okay, go and do this. Go and do this. Always, that strategy works 100% of the time. Ask the people that you want something from them, how to get it from them. They will tell you. Surprisingly, a lot of people tend not to do that. You just send your applications without proper guidance, hoping that it's approved. But if it's not approved, always ask them and say, hey, I understand you cannot prove it. How can I improve? Or what did I go wrong? And they will be frank with you. Over to you, Seth.
Deepa, I see you nodding a lot there. What has been your experience at Luminate and in other areas of work where you've worked with funding applications?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I totally agree. I also think that, you know, as an operator, a founder, it can often be daunting and difficult to approach a funder in that capacity because of a certain power dynamic that exists where one person is controlling capital and its outflow and the other is, you know, building something that needs that capital. You know, for me personally, I do try to be as available as possible and sort of believe that, you know, my time is something that should be as accessible to anyone within the broader pipeline ecosystem as possible, and believe in sort of demystifying, you know, the loopholes and aspects of sort of an investment process for those that we interact with and fund with. But, you know, I think overall, as you know, Paul mentioned, I think a lot of different funders have different strategies or visions or approaches to like investment processes or to applications. And so doing your research in advance and understanding, you know, who you're applying to, who you're funding with, who those individuals who are the gatekeepers there are, and what they funded in the past can go a long way, I think. And I also think, honestly, some of the best people to connect with prior to interacting with a funder are others who that funder has funded in some sense, because you'll really get an understanding of whether you know, the funder is someone who you want to work with in the first place. If the operators are positive on their track record, then that's like a great sort of, signal. And if it's highly restricted funding or funding that sort of came with a lot of conditions attached, or funding that came in ways that were inconvenient to the organization, you'll get that feedback back as well, directly from operators who have interacted with the investor. And so I think overall, speaking to the community of startups, of peers, within the ecosystem, like that's also a really good place to sort of get insights on who's out there and what their approach is.
Awesome, thanks, Deepa. Paul, I want to come back to a point that you made about getting a mentor. I'm starting out, I don't really have much connections. I don't know a lot of people. How do I go about finding that mentor?
That's a good question. Here's the thing. Everything in life is relational. Up until artificial intelligence is really a serious thing in our lives, you'll have to go through someone. And having to go through someone, you must understand human dynamics and relations. And many a times that you start off not knowing anyone. I'll give an example with my own life. Where I'm at today, it was not fundamentally because what my father did, in sense that he on-lended some of his networks to me. It was not that. I had to establish every network by myself. And a lot of those, early on, I approached a lot of high-profile business leaders in South Africa and even around the world. Actually, a lot of billionaires I've already approached very young. I was just excited about life and hopeful about success. And I wrote to a lot of millionaires, billionaires. In South Africa, I met a lot. And many people, they even asked me, how did you do it? Because these people don't have time. Surprisingly, if you approach someone really being interested in who they are, they will give you the time of the day, particularly when you're seeking advice, not money. If you come out or from the onset, your first email, you're asking for 2 million, come on, they might not even respond. But if you are interested in them, you research them and you say, hey, Paul, I see that you did 1, 2, 3, and I admire that. Many a time that people respond to when you are singing their praises. That's just a human fact. If you come praising someone and admiring them, they warm up to you immediately. And if you come not asking for favors initially, people warm up to you, because these rich people and a lot of successful people, they are used to people asking for things every time. So if you come with a different approach, not asking for anything, but advice, picking their brain, their mind, they will mostly listen to you. Today, in my companies, like let's just talk about Citizen Capital, we have a lot of high-profile business leaders in there, like a lot, all of them, except maybe myself. How one did that is that some of them, they've seen me rise over the years. Some of them, I approached them recently and I said, this is my vision, this is what I'm trying to do, and they bought into it. So here's the thing, when you go to events, unfortunately now we're doing virtuals and stuff, always seek to talk to these people, because you find that a speaker speaks and no one approaches him out at the top, or the majority of the people, they don't want to go and ask him and say, what's your email? Or how can we get in touch with you? They just go home. When you must always look for opportunities to network. You are in an event like this, look for an email of some of these members. Like some of these people who are on this panel are very key individuals. They might not give you what you're looking for, but they can show you the right door or point you in the right direction. So always look for an opportunity to network and go to the right places, and always research key individuals in your industry. Sometimes you have bumped into them at malls and you never knew who they were, but it's like you're bumping into someone who could change your life on the spot. I'll give you an example. About 3 weeks back, I bumped into a gentleman by the name of Lazarus Zim. I've been trying to get hold of this gentleman and he's been avoiding me. I hope he doesn't see this though. And so I saw him parking and I was in the car, and as he was passing, I was, hey, Dr. Lazarus Zim. And somehow it sparks a conversation. I said, what's your number? I had already had his email, but on his email, he was not really non-committal. He gave me his number on the spot. And from there, we've been talking, and hopefully good things will follow. So my point is that if you don't know who these people are in your industry, you're going past people, you know, at the mall, at events, not knowing that this is the person who could change your life. So always seek for an opportunity to network via email and so forth, and always be genuinely interested in the people themselves before you want favors. Don't start with favors, it repels them.
Awesome. Don't start with favors, it repels them. Iyanu, I want to come with you next. Tell us a bit about yourself, the work that you do, and give us a brief overview of what BudgIT is all about. You're muted, Iyanu.
All right, yeah, I was. Thank you so much, Chipo, and thanks to every other speaker that have come, you know, before me. Interestingly, BudgIT is a civic tech organization, of course, and what we do primarily is to demystify government data, and especially in the aspect of public finance. And we have several ways by which we do this. BudgIT was established 10 years ago. We're going to celebrate our 10th anniversary in September. And, you know, within a period of 10 years, we've been able to kind of scale what we do, because we started with simplifying budgets at the federal level into simple tweets and infographics just for citizens to be able to understand. Because we realized that, you know, citizens are always unable to understand, you know, government data, public data, and accurately interpret it and know how to hold government accountable with it. So we came in to bridge that gap, not just presenting it in simple format, but also presenting it in infographics, such that people would be able to understand. But beyond that, we also, our work of raising the standards of transparency and accountability in Nigeria, and, you know, by stretch, 3 other African countries last year, you know, is based on like 3 core pillars. And that's number 1, providing civic tech solutions, number 2, open government partnership, and 3, stakeholder management. Very briefly, just 30 seconds each for civic tech solutions. So beyond infographics, we also try to build some of those products that helps, you know, citizens to access real-time data on different aspects of the government. So we have the budget, sometimes we have the project, we have different sectors of the economy, we have health, education, and then we want people to be able to see what their government is spending on these sectors and see how much is being disbursed and know what questions to ask the government. So we have about, you know, 5 products within that space. And then open government partnership is, you know, there's a coalition of civil society organizations that, you know, we come together to, you know, press further in making data available, open data, especially at the subnational level. Because we also discover that people often get, you know, lost with the federal government, that national government in quotes, and then they fail to, you know, probe the subnational. So we thought that open government partnership would help us to achieve that, you know, in 36 states in Nigeria right now. And, you know, but beyond that also, we have stakeholder management, where we partner with stakeholders that are also interested in what we do. And then by that, we try to multiply and replicate what it is that we do. Because right now, you would see a lot of organizations, you know, they are also presenting budget in simple infographics. So we wanted to move beyond that into, okay, you know what, why don't we replicate this capacity that we have in other CSOs so that we can have a very wide landscape of people that can also do this. So it's not just budgets. And by extension, from there, we discovered that we needed to take some of these things to the grassroots also. So we moved into, you know, establishing another arm of budget that's called Tracker. And Tracker tracks, you know, government projects at the grassroots level in all 36 states. We have project tracking officers in all 36 states where, you know, we track the project, constituency project, and see what exactly is going on at the grassroots. So what we do is kind of holistic. It's not just in the urban area. It's also, you know, to probe into the, you know, the local parts where local governments, state governments, where people do not really focus on, and then see how you know, the government is working for them also. So I think I'd just like to, you know, stop there from the brief introduction.
Thank you, Iyanu. That was really a succinct way of telling us about the work that you guys do at BudgIT. And you are also not only in Nigeria, but 2 other countries.
3 other countries.
3 other countries, wow. So tell us about that journey of where you guys started, your funding models, and how you got to being in 3 countries in a space of 10 years.
Wow. Interestingly, thank you for that question. I really like it. Interestingly, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and then the person was just telling me that we have some of the big funders. Of course, there's somebody from Luminate. Luminate, you know, is part of our funders. We have Iyer, Gates, we have MacArthur, and, you know, some of the big. And then he was like, how did you guys do it? And I told him, I said, actually, we didn't start like that. You know, BudgIT was like just an idea incubated in Lagos at the CC. It was during the hackathon. and Sheoni just presented that idea. We had several others, I can't even remember, at that hackathon. And, you know, from there, it just spiraled out like that. And, you know, for years, like for a period of a year, between a year and 2 years, it was at CCO being incubated. So it was there for that period. And, you know, of course, CCO lent their assistance in, you know, creating and providing an office space for BudgIT. But apart from that, you know, for that period, it was mainly bootstrapping, and it wasn't also from his personal pocket. He did that in 3 ways. Number one, there was a Ashoka fellowship. He won the award, and then they were paying his salary for years. So he didn't have to worry about, okay, where would I get money to? Because one of the things with, you know, civic tech ideas, new ideas, is the fact that you don't, when you probably leave your job or something, you don't have, you know, that you can't even take care of yourself, talk less of bootstrapping, because the funding won't always come at the beginning, at the initial stage. So he had Ashoka fellowship paying his salary. And then, but beyond that, he also, you know, they came together to look at the fact that, okay, you know what, we need certain level of expertise and services, and we cannot afford it. So what do we do? So what they did was that they tried to look for partnerships. Okay, who are people that can give us the value that we want? And then that was how we brought in the co-founder, who is a CTO. Because, okay, it's a civic tech organization. We want to build, you know, technology. We want to build tools that would help citizens to hold government accountable. And then he is not a tech person. He's from, you know, he was working with First Bank before. And then he identified our co-founder, who interestingly also was at the hackathon to present another idea, of which his own idea didn't scale. But they looked at it and said, okay, you know what, Shim's idea is very good. Let's, you know, take the idea. And he provided technical expertise, and they didn't have to look for a service that they have to pay. So in that way, they came, you know, together to share that. And so in form of human resources. Then, sorry, I'll just make 2 points more before I. So the next thing we did was, you know, to also examine, trying to get it to a financing model within the organization. Because like I said, the funding didn't start rolling in, you know, initially. But, you know, we thought that, okay, it would be better, but BudgIT started as an NGO, but later on we felt, okay, you know what, let's build like a spin-off of BudgIT that is for profit. We were already good with data visualization. We're already good with, you know, what's it called now, presenting annual reports and infographics and stuff. So we had private organizations that wanted to do the same thing we do for the public. And then we thought, okay, it's okay to actually monetize this thing. So we created a spin-off of, you know, BudgIT where we actually could make money, right? And that was like a backup plan that, okay, let's even say that at the end of the day, this thing does not, you know, it doesn't work. How do we scale, how do we sustain ourselves? Because fellowships would end, you know, at some point. And then the last point that I would like to make also with respect to that is, you know, our idea, like I said, we started with, you know, simple tweets, simple infographics. But as time went on, we had to expand our business model, our value creation model, you know, to accommodate, because like I said, now you have tons of organizations that are presenting infographics, present budgets and infographics. So we couldn't have stayed there. Like we needed something more like that would be like an advantage, more value that we are creating within that space. And then after that, we started, that was when we developed the, what's it called now? We joined the OGP, that's Open Government Partnership. And what do we do with that? We try to help all the 36 states to simplify their budget, to build portal. So we have something called the Open States Portal. On that portal, you see simplified versions of citizens budget, states budget in a very simplified version for, you know, people to access it, people to, you know, be able to see that, you know, the citizens. So right now we have, you know, partnership with Kaduna State government. We built for, you know, 6 other states, and then we are building for signing up with more states. And lastly, you know, from there we moved to capacity building. We felt, okay, we had enough, like we can say that we are, you know, professionals in this sector. So why don't we replicate this? So we started, you know, capacity building for, you know, some of these states, CSOs, journalists, media. And those were the ideas we were presenting to funders that, okay, you know what, we're not just staying on, you know, the simple infographics. We also want to move beyond that to create more value, to, you know, track projects in the grassroots. We need project tracking officers, and then we need funds, you know, to be able to bring in some of those tracking officers, and by extension, community champions who are also helping the project tracking officers. So you can see, you know, the framework and then the landscape with which we try to kind of expand the value that we provide, such that it's not just a short-term thing, and then after this problem we are solving is done, then we are also done. No, we're always finding ways to, you know, expand the value that we create. And then from there, we moved to Ghana. We saw that, okay, it was the same issue with Ghana. We didn't start Ghana because we felt we needed to, understand, the political landscape in Ghana. And then we had to send people there, had to also push it to funders. Okay, this is what we're trying to do. And, then from there, Sierra Leone and then Liberia, which the three happened actually last year. And then it was by extension of what we have done in Nigeria in 9 years, study the framework, study the landscape, know exactly what works and what does not work, and then now carry that to the other countries. Yeah, so I like to just stop there because of time.
I like that. 9 years of hard work internally before scaling into other regions or other countries. And with that, I want to come to Roland. It's really a nice segue to coming to you guys. You started Volume sort of around that time when you joined the Accelerator program almost 4 or 5 years ago. What has been the journey like to getting to where you are today?
Thanks for that. Yeah, it's really been an incredible journey, and we've been incredibly lucky. I think started with this idea, just sort of launched the first iteration of it after that the panel took a chance on us with just an idea. And as we came to an end of that 6 months process, the MDIF launched the South African Media Innovation Program in South Africa. And I think the timing was just right. We were able to apply for that, and we were fortunate to be one of the national winners and receive the grant in January 2018. And so I think, since then we've been 100% focused on being a social enterprise, working as a podcast production company, and our the type of clients that we work with are mostly international organizations, large NGOs, think tanks, and they all do incredible work, but they do sometimes struggle with telling the stories of those incredible projects. And so we use the power of storytelling and audio, and we tell those stories. And so it's been, the subject matter is always fascinating. We work with incredible organizations. So it's, we can only be thankful for getting to how everything turned out.
Roland, you guys pivoted once or twice on your journey before getting to this point. Tell us about that and why pivoting is so key when you're building a startup or organization.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky thing. You don't. I think at some point I felt like if you haven't pivoted for 6 or 10 times, then you're not running a startup, which I think is a bit potentially problematic. But when to pivot is a very interesting question. Like I said, I think especially also thinking about how you build a business and starting small and working on getting the small wins. We were lucky to get into Jamlab with just an idea, but we focused very much on our core idea, which was at that stage, like I said before, helping community radio stations produce better local news. And we built like an MVP. We got the initial bunch of users. And I think due to, having applied to the South African Media Innovation Program with a tangible MVP and a few people that used it, and we weren't just pitching an idea, I think helped us get into that program. But then, you're grafting and you're looking for that business model. And at some point you realize, okay, you've knocked your head against the same wall one too many times. And it's time to consider, is there other opportunities that we can take advantage of? And so, at that stage I realized, Paul was my not my fellow panelist, my co-founder in Volume, was actually an incredible podcast producer and an investigative journalist. And there was an opportunity that came up to basically pivot from being a platform to enable other people to to produce content to being a content producer first, ourselves. And so, initially we were sort of dabbling in both, one foot on each side. And then we realized, well, to give it a proper shot, we need to double down and really focus. I think to Deepa's, the point earlier, it is very, very useful and I think powerful to kind of focus on a core idea and iterate on that.
Absolutely. And speaking of core idea, I want to ask you a follow-up question. But before I ask you that, I want to ask Deepa and Paul. When looking at applications for funding from organizations, what is it that you look for in an organization or in an application? Deepa, I want to begin with you.
I think generally it's less about the application for me, more about sort of meeting people early in person and sort of having, or virtually, of course, given the times we now live in, and having interactions with them to really understand their motivations for building what they're building and understand their story and why they're doing the work that they are committing themselves to in some sense. And, I think also sort of understanding, if they're a first-time founder, like understanding sort of what's really driving their strategic mindset around how they're approaching the sector and the ecosystem, to Iyanu's point, is this sort of an organization or a company that is thinking slow to go fast later in some ways, to the point around sort of perfecting a model for 9 years and then scaling to other countries after that? Or is it someone who is, in execution mode? I mean, everyone is always in execution mode in some sense, but I think sometimes you meet, founders who are very focused on the funding ecosystem and less focused on sort of what they're building in some ways. And that's really a challenge because I do think that funders send very mixed messages to the ecosystem and that power dynamic is real. And it's like a difficult one to manage because people need money. But, at the end of the day, I think what I'm really looking for is an understanding of the people and the team and an understanding of the problem as well that they're trying to solve. Because I think in the civic tech ecosystem, so often, and in the media ecosystem, so often you are building, content-based platforms or building public resources or building tech products that can often be technology first without really thinking about, okay, who are the people and what are the power dynamics that one is seeking to influence and what is kind of the problem that one is seeking to solve and how have these teams built data around that problem to really like identify the strategic directions that they might take. So I think assessing like that is really what I sort of try to focus on in early conversations. It's less about sort of a formal application and like kind of filling in lots of things like that is kind of how other funders might work. But yeah.
Awesome. Paul, corporates, governments, what do they look for when you start approaching them for funding or support?
Yeah, so I wanted to say, firstly, it depends. And how it depends, firstly, I'll mention regions. So if you look at South African finances, they are more returns driven. And you look at more developed economies, it's always how many people are you reaching. And they can even fund you pre-revenue. You'll find a lot of these companies, your Google, your Facebook, they were funded before they even made any cent, even WhatsApp. So, and many other companies. In South Africa, you don't find financiers who look at that, who are fundamentally mainly only focusing on that. They are more about how are you bringing the money back. So in South Africa, maybe just to speak to our context and maybe even the continent, is more about return on investment, ROI. So if you look at that, whenever you make any application, is that you can write a beautifully written, business plan and so forth. But the fundamentals of that is there a need for what you're offering, number one? And they can also then jump at the end to look at the numbers and then work it backwards. Because if the numbers make sense, it justifies why they should read your business plan in its entirety. So always, and it's not just also the factor that get a good accountant who can put together the great numbers. There should be a clear need, a proven concept in the market that definitely the market requires this, because you can ideologically and idealistically have a great idea that makes sense to you, but the market might not respond as you think. So you always have to test your ideas with actual market feedback, whereby you take it into the market and you see how the market reacts. And once the market reacts good, and you can then say, okay, according to the patterns that we have seen, what is the rate of growth? And then you can do projections and then put numbers which are reasonable in your business plan. And then, so with a lot of us, particularly as investors, we're not just like financiers, because financiers is all about how do you bring back the money. You have a lot of DFIs, and I also want to advise a lot of people to look into DFIs. And I know a lot of people are discouraged approaching your CFAs, IDCs, and many others, because we always hear them preaching that we have a lot of money to deploy, but few stories of people, those who have gotten the money. If you try yourself, you don't get the money. So with them, the approach is different. It's not about how can you bring back the money with the interest rate. Investors is how can you exponentially grow the value of their investment in there, and maybe with sights of them exiting at a better space. So I would say it depends on regions and it depends on the funder that you're approaching.
Iyanu, you're nodding a lot, and I see Roland as well is nodding a lot. What has been the experience like for BudgIT when submitting applications? What is the key things that you are doing to stand out or to make sure that you secure that funding that you're looking for?
Okay, so very quickly, let me just say this. I just remembered an experience I had where somebody was giving a speech on this funding thingy, and then he was telling his audience that you have to shoot your shots. You must always shoot, And then I was like, it's okay to shoot your shot. I'm not saying that, but you have to shoot it the right way. You have to prepare that shot before you shoot it when it comes to, funders. And I would like to, mention or reiterate one of the points that Paul made earlier. And that is the fact that you don't determine, it is your donor's interest, the funder's interest that determines, the kind of idea. So you can't just say, okay, create a landscape of 20 funders and then start sending proposals. No, you have to research and see what exactly their interest is and find a way to bring in your own vision into their interest. Because any funder, anybody that wants to check your proposal, the first thing they want to see is how their interest is, how your vision mirrors their interest. Do you understand? So that's the first thing that, that's one of the things that, you have to do. I just thought I should chip that in. Then for BudgIT, like, every other speaker already said, you can't take away impact. And I think that's one of the things that we are able to leverage on, to leverage at BudgIT for every of our proposals and every of our, you can't deny the numbers. If the numbers are there, it can't be denied. How do you interpret the fact that, okay, within 9 years, we started with just the federal government and then we have expanded to 3 states in Nigeria. The only reason we are not in the other 2 states is because of the Boko Haram and all the bandit stuff, and then we feel it's not safe. And then we have 36 project tracking officers, and by extension, we have about 700 community champions that take the this budget education, civic education to the grassroots by BudgIT. And then how also do you interpret the fact that between 9 years we have been able to build like 5 tech products? We have the Open State Portal, we have the SMS solution, and the fact that you are able to look at the fact that all these solutions are, all these solutions, I'm looking for the right word, it caters to every part of demography, both literate and illiterate. So when we launched the Open State Portal, we felt like, okay, people in the grassroots, they don't have access to internet and stuff. How can we include them? And then we launched an SMS solution, just text SAFA 33542, a particular number, and it gives you their locations. You know, and then when you highlight all of this in your impact report, on your impact story, the funders can't deny that, okay, these people have been working. We have the State of Sales program that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation fund. And then where we analyze the fiscal sustainability of all 36 states in Nigeria, we analyze how they are able to pay their required expenditure, capital expenditure, their loan repayments, and all of that. And then we use that to forecast and decide whether they are sustainable. They have to find better ways to create IGR to, you know, get funding instead of depending on the federal government for allocation. You know, and then when you put all of these numbers together in an impact report, you know, like Paul was saying, in a storytelling format, and you try to tell them, okay, this is what we are doing, this is what we have done, and this is how we have been able to know, like, and that's what we leverage every time we're a proposal. So it's not just about shooting the shot. You have to shoot it the right way. You have to prepare it the right way. The report, what story are you telling? What success stories are you telling? And even when they go there to check, we do outcome harvesting. And then some of these donors, they come and check the communities. So if we tell them that we have 30-something this and this, they come themselves to come and check that, okay, is it true that you guys have actually done this? And they found out that we even did more. We just underreported. Do you understand? So when you have these stories, when you have these numbers, they cannot deny it. So, and that is one of the things that we should focus on. Civic tech organizations should focus on, even if it's not, it doesn't have to be like BudgIT, you know, that 6 people. No, the little impacts that you have, try to visualize it, try to tell it in a story in such a way they can see that, okay, if these people have more capacity, they will do more. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Iyanu. We've got about 10 minutes left, under 10 minutes left for our conversation. And I want to encourage you, the audience members, if you have any questions, do send them through and we'll try to get to them before the top of the hour. Roland, I want to come to you next. Same question, similar questions. You guys secured an investment deal with the Media Development Investment Fund earlier this month. Tell us about the experience, but also include how you've approached applying for donor funding for volume.
Thanks, Terpo. Yes. Yeah, look, I mean, it's been an incredible experience going through that process, just because we've had a relationship with that organization, with that funder for 3 years now. And so I think when you get to the point where you do an equity deal, knowing who you're working with and who you're going on probably quite a long journey with helps a lot. You know, I think it's quite a daunting task if you pitching to an equity investor that you know almost nothing about, and you know that you're going on quite a long you're gonna have to walk a long road together. So but just in terms of, I think, to your second point, you know, as entrepreneurs, we always have these big visions of how to make a dent in the universe. And but I think one of the most important lessons that I've learned over the last couple of years is the value of starting small and starting with a uncomplicated product, focusing on a smaller market, trying to get to that first revenue stream going, and building a small sustainable business where you're covering, you know, building your team, covering salaries for a couple of employees, and showing that success, even though it isn't necessarily something that's completely, you know, changed the world necessarily, or is the, you know, the next big thing. I think showing that, you know, building that credibility, and creating a track record enables you to get to the next point where it's like, okay, you know, I'm now selling you, I'm pitching you on the next phase of my vision, but you can at least point to something that that worked. And I think a lot of, in my experience, that is also like the best way to approach funders, because you're not, you know, they're trying, you know, willing to compromise on a bunch of things just to secure the funding. You actually have a leg to stand on, and you also have a much better idea of how to you know, use that capital in the most sensible way. If you've already like ran your business, even if it is on a very small scale, for a while.
Cool. Thanks, Roland. Deepa, two questions from you for Maurice. How do civic tech solutions balance between sustainability and market education to pay for their solutions? And then the other one is there room for commercial investments to civic tech and media on the continent?
Yeah, I'll take the first one first. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all answer on that. I think it's sort of unique to different organizations. I think, BudgIT's example of kind of figuring out the core of your work and sticking to that in some ways goes really far when thinking about how to balance between different types of funding and different, types of grant revenue versus earned revenue, and which channels of earned revenue to pursue that are high margin and worth your time in some sense. So I do think the balance is there in terms of, when using a decision framework to assess like, okay, what are new streams of revenue that one might pursue? Really thinking about it in terms of how is it core to the central mission of the organization, but also, or the company, but also, is it high margin? Is it worth your time in certain ways? And if it isn't, are there other intangible benefits that it might be bringing that are worth the investment upfront in some sense? I think can you repeat the second question actually, Chapu?
Is there room for commercial investments to civic tech and media on the continent?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely room. I think there's also sort of a question of, broadly speaking, I think there needs to be more patient capital that is sort of willing to wait, a certain amount of time for, I think that there definitely needs to be more liquidity at all stages of the growth cycle in some sense. So I think there's definitely like a lot of room for it, especially as you're seeing a lot of folks incorporate in ways that, are suiting tax needs as well as sort of the needs of, regulation like across the ecosystem in different ways. And so I think overall there's definitely space, but we do need like a lot more patient investors as well.
Awesome. Deepa, one last question that's related to what you answered to Maurice on his first question. Should organizations be looking at a mixed financing or monetizing model for their organizations or platforms? And how can they go about that? What are those models that they should be looking at?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, you should. And again, I think, the two folks we've heard from as operators on this call are prime examples of, models that one can use to look at, how to build out earned revenue streams and think about them strategically. So again, I think really thinking about, is it sort of a cost center, or is it actually something that is driving margin for you over time is a good way of, starting and really thinking about who the stakeholders are and who the communities are that you're looking to build a sales pipeline around is crucial.
Awesome. We've got about a minute left before we have to part ways. And I want to ask all of you, we'll start with Paul. What does the future look like for funding for organizations post the pandemic? Where should we look for funding? Where are the opportunities?
Yeah, firstly, do enough research about funding organizations. There's a lot of money, capital looking for opportunities. Trust me, there's a lot of it. So, and money is liquid. It goes where it can create more of itself. It goes where it knows that someone can deploy it better and create value. So as an entrepreneur, always seek to know all the available options that you have. And of this day and age, we have different platforms to raise money, like crowdfunding and so forth. But I'm more of a proponent of being traveling the road less traveled, whereby you really seek ways of extracting value out of ways that a lot of people don't go into, whereby some of those things I've mentioned early on, getting mentors and, but the best form of funding is from customers, and nothing beats that. And because that's also the confidence that the market shows in what you're doing. So if you are a for-profit company, if there are ways that you can monetize what you can do on a lean model, always seek to use your customers as financiers. And in that way, you don't have to give out equity. You just have to sweat out your own resources to make it happen. So ultimately, we say, don't just seek to reach many numbers, but reach the market that counts. So it's always about the people that really counts, the audience that counts, that will really generate you money. And as you go out there to conquer, make it happen and be there.
Deepa, before I let you go, 30 seconds, where are the opportunities? Where should we be looking?
With inside yourselves, I think, but also like more broadly, you know, to the communities who you're working with. I think just understanding what the problem is really the first step. So yeah.
Thanks a lot, Deepa. Iyanu, I want to come to you next. 30 seconds. Where should we be looking for opportunities?
But I just want to reiterate, you know, the need for research, networking, and relationship. You can't take away these three from knowing the opportunities. If you walk up to one person now, they won't up their head tell you about 25. At least they will tell you the ones that are working for them. But you must be able to research and network to find out what will work for you or what your business needs. And I find out that that's one of the ways that, you know, people are really faltering these days. Do the work, do the research. And researching doesn't mean you search in Google engine or whatever, you know, by the people that you know, relationships. Even if what they are doing doesn't directly relate to you, they can always point you, like Paul was saying the other time, that they can always point you to the right direction, to the place to look into, you know, look for the big guys, those that have gone before you, and you relate with them, talk to them. They are always, most of them are always willing to, you know, point you to the right direction. So people we should all not overemphasize, we cannot overemphasize the need for research, networking, and relationship in seeing and knowing the right people to call to ask for funding. Thank you.
Thank you. And Roland, 30 seconds. Where are the opportunities for funding? Where should we be looking?
Yeah, I would echo what Paul said. I think that's extremely true. And then I would just add that I think the pandemic brought the future 10 years closer. And that will start revealing itself, I think, over the next couple of years. So I think that the rate of innovation, new things in both media and civic tech is going to be incredible to see. So yeah, it's going to be all around us.
Awesome. Thank you so much to Deepa, Paul, Iyanu, and Roland for all your insights. I still have a lot of questions, but we only have an hour and we have to leave it there. This is our final Jamlab Meetup in partnership with the Civic Tech Innovation Network for the year. But together we'll be back in September to bring you JamFest and the Civic Tech Innovation Forum, where we will continue and take this conversation forward. So do make sure that you register and you are part of the conversation. In the meantime, please do join us next week for a special Jamlab Meetup with Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism, where we will be launching their latest digital news report focusing on Africa, and we'll delve into what those findings in the report mean for news market in our region. We shared the link in the registration, and I hope you can join us. But let's not limit our interactions to just these Jamlab meetups. Please feel free to reach out and chat to us. Email us if you have any ideas on how we can collaborate and drive actual impact through different platforms and various other channels. The details are on your screen, hopefully, of how you can reach us. Remember to visit the Civic Tech Innovation Network on civictech.africa and learn more about the work they do in the civic space. And also, while you're there, check out jamlab.africa and connect with us. Thank you once again for joining us. Thank you to Deepa, Paul, Iyanu, and Roland for your time. And thank you, the audience member, for joining us. This was informational and benefiting to you and your organization. We hope to see you at the next Jamlab Meetup. Thank you and have a great afternoon.